Generally, when you're in a mood to eat some chicken starters, the first thing that comes to your mind are chicken lollipops. So let's get going with that. This is the Bombay chef Varun Inamdar and welcome to Get Curried. First things first is to convert this chicken wing into a lollipop, for which I've taken the entire wing along with the winglet. Now this is into three parts. We have the shoulder, we have the wing, and we have the winglet. So let's see what to do. The first thing is to check the joint here and to discard the winglet, which is this portion. The next is to separate this joint. So right here, I'm running the knife between the two joints, which is here, and I get these two parts. Now the first part is the wing, which has two bones. So here if you see, there's a thicker bone and a thinner bone. So you can touch it and feel it. So first thing is to touch and feel and to figure out where the two bones are and run a knife right in the middle of the two. Something like this. So here you have separated the two bones. The thinner one now gets cut further. So I'm going to just run a knife around the thinner bone and make sure this comes out. Make sure you have a very firm grip and an extra sharp knife. You scrape the meat around this and you turn the entire thing around and you push it out. So this is how this bone comes out. And now we move on to the second bone, which is the thicker bone. I'm going to run the knife around the second bone, something like this. And again, I'm going to push the entire meat down, something like this. Now, the second part, I'm going to run this knife and make sure the entire bone is clean, absolutely clean. Finally, this meat can be chopped off. So here you have this lollipop, which is now ready. All you have to do is now collect this ball of meat and convert this into a ball which is now connected to the thicker bone, something like this. This goes here. Now coming to the shoulder part. Now here if you see, there's a single thick bone. So all you have to do is run your knife around the bone, something like this. And separate the meat from the bone. Exactly how we did to the wing. The only difference is it has a single bone, which is a rather thicker bone. So you scrape the meat like this. Make sure you scrape the entire bone so it becomes nice and clean. Turn it around and knock this off. Now similarly, I'm going to collect the entire ball of meat, just give it a roll, and here you have this lollipop ready. Well, here if you see, I have pre-cut most of the lollipop and kept it ready. Well, however, if you're lucky enough, your butcher will do this for you. But if you want to get adventurous in the kitchen, well, you can get going. The lollipops are processed and ready. Let's begin with the marination. For that, I'm taking all these in a bowl. Some soya sauce, some ginger garlic paste, some crushed black pepper, and finally some salt. Give it a good mix. And let it rest for 30 to 45 minutes. Let's start making the batter. The first thing that goes in is some corn flour. The next is some refined flour. The next that goes in is some chili powder. Now this chili can be a good mix of a chili that gives you good color and taste. So I've taken a mix of Kashmiri and Degi mirch. You can add in some salt as required. And now I'm breaking in an egg. Give it a mix. And along with this, I'm going to add in some water and convert this into a thick batter. While the batter is getting ready, let's put the oil to heat. The lollipop is marinated and ready, the batter is ready, and the oil is also heated up. So now let's start frying. For this, I'm taking the lollipop again, giving it a nice roll, making sure the meat is all together. Dip this into the batter. Drain the excess and drop this straight in the oil. The lollipops are done and ready. I'm transferring them on an absorbent paper to drain all the excess oil. Similarly, I'm going to fry the other lollipops. The lollipops are fried and ready. Let's make it restaurant style now. For this, I'm taking an aluminium foil. So here, I'm taking this foil and I'm wrapping the bone which is exposed here. So I'm just turning it around and giving it a pinch. Similarly, I'm going to do the rest. Well, here if you notice, the chicken lollipops are not as bright red in color as you generally see them in restaurants. That is just the magic of some extra added food color. Well, if you're okay with that, go ahead with that as well. The chicken lollipops are done and ready. Do try these at home and serve these with Szechuan sauce. Hi guys, this is the Bombay chef Varun Inamdar and welcome to Get Curried. Well, I bring tandoori chicken into your kitchen today. Tandoori chicken without an oven, yet smoky, yet flavorful. The first step is to take a clean and patted dry chicken, and what I'm doing is I'm creating a few gashes in this. So by gashes, I mean these incisions, these deep cuts, so that the marination and the masalas go right straight in. So the chicken is cut and ready. Now is the time to start marinating this. So what I have here with me is some fresh yogurt, red chili powder, ginger garlic paste, turmeric, and salt to taste. I'm going to rub all these masalas to these pieces of chicken. Make sure it's nicely rubbed in. I'm just making sure the marination reaches each and every cut and incision of this piece. I'm now going to rest this for 30 minutes at room temperature. Let it nicely marinate. Well, allow me to wash my hands as well. Now that the chicken is marinated and ready, let's begin the frying process. The first thing that goes is some oil in a pan, and along with this, a little bit of salted butter. Allow this to heat. Once the oil is moderately hot, I'll start putting in the pieces of chicken. Just have to make sure you do not overcrowd the pan, otherwise they start releasing a lot of liquids and moisture. The chicken has been cooking for 1.5 minutes on the first side. I've given it a flip, and now if you see, the color is nice and golden brown, exactly like the tandoori chicken baked in a tandoor. It's been roughly around 10 to 12 minutes. The chicken has nicely cooked on all the sides. It has cooked in right till the center. Off goes the flame. I'm transferring this into a deep bowl. Here is a magic trick to give this chicken the taste and flavor of a tandoor. I have a piece of charcoal which I'm now going to light on the gas. So let it nicely char and become red in color, and then I show you what I do with that. Finally, the trick to create smoke like tandoor. So I'm using a small steel glass, and on top of this, I'm going to place the red coal. Let's create the magic smoke. A few splashes of oil, and on goes the lid. Let this be nicely covered for like a minute and a half. Let all the chicken pieces get the flavor of smoke, and then we'll start plating. And ta-da! The tandoori chicken is ready. Off goes the piece of charcoal, and now let's start plating. So here you have this beautiful and rustic tandoori chicken for you and your family. Wait for what next the Bombay chef gets in your kitchen. Chicken nuggets, in my view, is possibly one of the most popular starters across the globe. Well, today I'll show you a quick, easy and simple way to get it juicy, succulent and tender every time you make it. Hey guys, this is the Bombay chef Varun and welcome to Get Curried. For this, I'm going to use a boneless breast of chicken, and this I'm going to cut in 1-inch squares. For this, the first step is to cut it into half and then portion it like so. We need to get 1 square-inch pieces like so. Always make sure you use breast of a chicken because it's nice and tender. Make sure there are no sinews, and if any, just discard them. Well, the ends of a chicken breast could be given a gash like so, a horizontal one, and tapped back. Likewise, let's cut the remaining breast of chicken. Make sure the cuts of chicken are as uniform as possible so that they all cook at the same time. The next step is to marinate the pieces of chicken, and for this I'm using some fresh thyme. You could also use the herb of your choice. Well, if the thyme is nice and tender, you could just chop it up with the stalk. But in this case, I personally feel it's a little woody. I'm going to run a knife roughly over this. This goes straight on the cut pieces of chicken, followed with some salt and pepper. Well, you could also use some Dijon mustard or some mustard paste if you like the flavor. Mix this well and let's keep it aside for 10 minutes. While the chicken is marinating, time to break an egg for the coating. A touch of salt and pepper. And as promised, the secret to make it nice, succulent and juicy is yogurt. Give this a nice mix. And along with this, a few teaspoons of refined flour. This is just to make sure the batter nicely sticks to the pieces of chicken. A good mix again, and this is ready to use. Well, I'll add in the marinated pieces of chicken, and a quick mix. After mixing this well, make sure this is covered and placed in a refrigerator for a minimum of 30 to 45 minutes so that the marination seeps within. The chicken is marinated and ready. Let's now begin breading it. For this, I'm going to use some fresh breadcrumbs. Dab this in the crumbs, and this gets reserved on another plate. The chicken nuggets are breaded. Let this rest in the freezer for a minimum of 15 minutes. The chicken is out of the freezer. I've placed oil in a deep pan and we need to heat this till it's moderately hot. Fry these in small batches and make sure at no point is the oil overcrowded. For the doneness to be perfect, it could take anywhere between a minute or two to cook this and to get this nice golden brown color. I'm transferring this on an absorbent kitchen paper, and similarly, let's start frying the other pieces as well. Well, you could also bake this at 200 degrees for 20 to 30 minutes. Check the doneness before you serve. बाद में बोलना नहीं रे बाबा येड़ा बनाया. Finally, for some extra flavor and color, some curled parsley, but this time fried. Also, do not forget to like the videos, share the videos, and subscribe to get curried. Well, parties, seasons, festivals, celebrations are all around the corner, and there's going to be a serious demand for some starters. Well, this is from my holiday menu, a very special starter, and that is chicken drumsticks 2 ways. Let's begin. When I say 2 ways, of course, I'm going to do a grilling method and a baking method, but that's secondary. Primarily what I'm doing is I'm going to show you 2 different kinds of making the sauce. Well, the first one is going to be a strawberry barbecue sauce, and the second one is going to be a dry rub, almost like a Cajun spice or a peri-peri. Let's first begin with, of course, the barbecue style, and this one is a strawberry barbecue. Just a touch of olive oil. Before this kind of begins to heat, I'm going to slide in some cloves of garlic. Along with this, some dried red chilies. Of course, if you can lay your hand on fresh chilies, it's going to be just perfect and fantastic. With this as a thickener and to just kind of bring in that quotient of sweetness, I'm going to add in red onions, and this now just kind of needs to begin to saute. While this is happening, let's move on to the most critical ingredient in this barbecue sauce, and that is fresh strawberry. Well, it's very simple. Wash it well and hull the strawberries. When I say hull the strawberries, all you need to do is remove the green leafy portion of the strawberry, and of course that needs to be discarded. Cut this into a half or a quarter. It's just kind of a rough cut. Just keep it aside and ready till the onions are kind of getting cooked. Once the onions are translucent and ready, let's increase the flame and add in the fresh strawberries. Now, because strawberries are in season in India, this is the best time to start using strawberries. I'm adding in brown sugar. Along with this, tomato ketchup. To this, I'm going to add in mustard paste. And finally, to kind of balance off all the flavors, I'm adding in light soya sauce. And you could also substitute this with red wine vinegar. All we need to do is allow this to simmer on kind of low to medium flame, and that would take some around 5 to 7 minutes. The whole idea here is to kind of make it nice, soft and mushy. Once that happens, you take a potato masher and you just mash this till the strawberry kind of releases all its fresh juice and becomes nice and pulpy. Well, the alternate method here is to cool this down completely and grind this into a smooth puree. Once that puree is done, you can also bring it back to the flame and cook it for a minute. With this, our sweet, sour, sticky strawberry barbecue sauce is done and ready. The next is to take chicken drumsticks in a baking tray, and to this, just basic marination of salt, pepper and olive oil. We rub this well, and this goes into bake for 30 minutes at 200 degrees or till the chicken drumsticks are perfectly cooked. While the chicken is getting baked, let's move on to the next step, and that is grilling the drumsticks. As simple as oil on the drumsticks, this regular vegetable oil. To this, salt, again, as much as required, and as basic as freshly cracked black pepper. Well, not too much because you don't want the specks to kind of burn while grilling. You rub this well. and just allow the grill to kind of heat up. The pan is heated up. Let's drop in the pieces of chicken and allow these to sear beautifully on all sides. And for that, of course, you need to keep rolling it in the middle. But yeah, you can just let it be for a minute. Once it kind of gets beautiful grill marks, turn it over. After a minute on high flame, and when it gets kind of grill marks on one side, you roll it nicely on the other side and allow it to grill there as well. While our chicken drumstick is kind of grilling to perfection, and this is going to take a beautiful 20 minutes to do that, let's begin with creating the dry rub that's going to be sweet and spicy. The first thing, that is brown sugar, going ahead with cinnamon powder, followed up with garlic, and this is dried garlic. I'm following this up with onion powder, followed by yellow mustard powder, chili powder, along with this sweet paprika, black pepper powder, and finally to this, salt. Mix this well, and there you have a dry rub which is done and ready. With this, our dry spice mix is done and ready, and this is also commonly referred to as a dry rub. Let's dredge this generously, or the way you please, on the chicken, which is almost 99% cooked. Keep rolling the cooked drumstick to ensure that it's sprinkled all over. With this, a chicken drumstick, which is kind of rubbed with a dry seasoning or a spicy seasoning, is done and ready. The next is to pull the baked one out of the oven and roll it in the strawberry barbecue sauce. Let's do that. With this, our chicken drumstick is also baked and ready. This now straight jumps literally in the strawberry barbecue sauce. We need to roll this generously in the strawberry barbecue sauce, and with that, of course, you have your second style of drumsticks, which are also done and ready. With this, you have chicken drumsticks done and ready, and this is two ways. Try this and impress your family and friends this festive season.
Everybody loves fried chicken, be it kids or adults. Today I'm going to show you my take of KFC style fried chicken at home. I'm going to cook the chicken in two stages, one by poaching it first and next by frying it. So here I've got about a liter of water that's coming to a boil. Now while that heats up, I'm going to add 3 onions that have been quartered. To this, I'm also going to add 2 bay leaves, 2 dried red chilies, 3 cloves of garlic, 2 to 3 cinnamon sticks, about 5 cloves, the juice of 1 lemon, a good amount of salt, that's about 2.5 teaspoons of salt. I'm also going to add some peppercorns, about 10 to 12 peppercorns, and about half a teaspoon of coriander seeds. I'm just going to gently bash the peppercorns and the coriander seeds just to release their flavor. So the peppercorns and coriander seeds are bashed up. I'm just going to add these to the stock water. I have about 5 pieces of chicken drumstick with the skin on because that's what's going to give us really nice crispy chicken when we fry it. Now with this water boiling, I'm just going to drop the chicken pieces into the boiling water. I'm going to let the chicken cook in this stock water for about 14 minutes before we fry it off later to get our crispy KFC style chicken. It's been about 14 minutes and because you can't tell, it smells absolutely wonderful here. The chicken is poached. I'm just going to pull it out here and leave it on this plate to rest and of course cool before we can move on to dredging it. While the chicken is cooling down and the oil is heating up for us to fry the chicken, I'm going to go ahead and season the dredging or the coating for the fried chicken. I've got 1 cup of all-purpose flour here and 1 cup of instant oats. I'm just going to season both of these coatings. I'm going to start with a teaspoon of salt for the all-purpose flour, teaspoon of salt for the instant oats, half a teaspoon of black pepper powder, again first in the all-purpose flour and then in the instant oats, a 1/4 teaspoon of red chili powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder in the all-purpose flour, 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder in the instant oats and half a teaspoon of cumin powder. Now I'm just going to whisk all of these seasonings into the flour first. I've also got 3 eggs here which I'm just going to whisk. We're ready to start making the coating for the fried chicken. First comes the flour. I'm just going to take the chicken, dip it nicely into the flour. What this does is that it makes the chicken nice and dry. Shake off all the excess. Dunk it into the egg. And for that final stage of crispiness, it gets a coating of the instant oats. Now continue the same process for the rest of the pieces of chicken. Flour first, into the egg, and the last layer. The chicken is nicely coated in the flour, egg and instant oats. Now we're just ready to fry them off. That's it. The last of our fried chicken is ready to eat. I'm just going to let this cool slightly before anyone can tuck into it. This homemade KFC style chicken is made with a lot of TLC and I really hope you'll try this recipe soon. And when you do, leave a comment and subscribe to Get Curried for loads more such recipes. Today I'm going to show you how to make a really quick, easy and lip-smacking appetizer. It's got loads of cheese in it and it's chicken cheese fingers. I've got 250 grams of boneless chicken breast pieces which I've just cut up into cubes and I'm going to grind in the blender. The reason why I've cut it up is because it just minces far more easily in the blender. You should ideally avoid using minced chicken in this recipe because you are not really mincing it very fine. That's it, just a quick blend and you'll see the texture now. Time to add loads of flavor to this, the first of which is going to be some black pepper, about 1/4 teaspoon. Cumin powder, again 1/4 teaspoon. Garlic powder, 1/4 teaspoon. If you want to use fresh, finely minced garlic, then use about 1 teaspoon. 1/4 teaspoon of red chili powder. And about half a teaspoon of salt. Mix all of that in. You know what? I'm just going to mix it with my hand. It's just easier that way. Now all of that is mixed in really well, so I'm going to add the star of this dish, 1 cup of processed cheese that's been grated. Mix this in batches. It's easier to mix it in that way. Everything is mixed in really well together, so I'm just going to divide this up into about 12 portions and then start shaping this into fingers. Now that I've portioned these out, I'm just going to shape these into fingers. Just make sure that when you're shaping these, there are no cracks or they're not broken in any spots, because that will be a bit of a problem when you're frying these off. That's it. Now I'm going to start coating each of these chicken fingers. Just before that, I've got 1 cup of flour here. I'm going to add a tiny pinch of salt to the breadcrumbs, which will form the final coating of the chicken fingers, and a tiny pinch of black pepper as well. The reason we do this is because the breadcrumbs otherwise can end up being a little tasteless. So just a little bit of flavor, very little, and just mix that into the breadcrumbs. Time to start coating these. The first layer is of the all-purpose flour. This is plain maida. Just dust off all the excess. Dunk it right into 2 eggs that have been whisked. And once that is nicely coated, it gets a final layer of breadcrumbs. Just place it on a platter and continue with the rest of the chicken fingers. That's it. The last one is nicely coated. Now I'm going to set these aside in the fridge for at least an hour before I fry these off. The reason I do that is because otherwise the coating just forms a layer which comes off and peels off, and we don't really want that. So this we'll get back to frying in 1 hour's time. The cheesy chicken fingers have been resting in the refrigerator for 1 hour, and now it's time to fry them off. I've got oil heating up here on a medium flame, and I'm just going to drop these off and fry them. Once these turn slightly golden on one side, just flip them over very gently so that they cook evenly on the other side as well. Just keep turning them over in the oil till they get a nice and even golden brown color. These two are ready to pull out. And I'm just going to leave it here on a paper towel to drain. And the last batch of these cheesy chicken fingers is done. Again, I'm just going to leave them on the paper towel to drain. What a beautiful golden color. If you're looking for a party starter of a recipe or just want to make something really nice and comforting for yourself, these chicken cheesy fingers are it. So I hope you try this recipe and subscribe to Get Curried for loads more.